Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and business partners of Mongolia. It's my pleasure to meet you here again in this great city, Taiwan, after 3 years of COVID isolation, first time in China and first time again in Taiwan. Feeling good to see my old friends and partners of Mongolian coal industry. This COVID period, 3 years, given us a lot of lessons, big changes. I think it was not easy, not only in Mongolia, but also in China for coal miners, for coal traders. But Mongolia has some specific condition because we are, the size of economy, it's not a big country, few population, and our biggest trade partner is China, naturally, geographically, historically. This is our reliable and most important partner. But during the COVID, we faced the big problem of trading with China, passing our coal through border. Custom clearance problems, COVID restrictions, and infrastructure, coal transport logistics. This is the main problem we had in last few years. And consequently, there was a big claims from industry to government, from public to government, and we need some urgent changes. And these urgent changes have been doing. And because of quick changes cause always some negative reactions from businessmen, and it causes problem for Chinese buyers. Sometimes it causes for Mongolian miner and transport also. So I will address this a little bit later. Mongolian Coal Association is a non-government organization established by companies. And this, here you can see the members. The members are state-owned company and private-owned company. You know, Virdenes Tavan Tolga, the biggest Mongolian state-owned. And here we have representative of MAK, one of biggest private players. And we have also brown coal mining companies which supply coal to power plants in Mongolia. And we have foreign invested companies, companies called mines with Chinese investment. All these are miners, coal mining companies. So basically we work with Mongolian government and other organizations on behalf of mining companies to protect interests of miners, coal miners. And starting from this year, from the half of June of this year, we decided to establish a club for supporting industries, not only miners, but we also need to understand problems of our partners in coal trade, in supply, technology equipment, and other organizations. So we are going to establish within the Coal Association certain body to hear the problems and challenges which are being faced by our partners. So at the end of presentation there will be email. If you want to communicate and more information, feel free to contact us. Okay, in this presentation I want to tell you what is the capacity of Mongolian coal industry. Not going to talk about little more details of numbers, but generally what we can do, what we cannot do, and also what we can do will be limited by the market, which is mostly China. Mongolia has coal reserves across the country. Here you can see the north, south, west, and east Mongolia. East Mongolia is brown coal, steam coal, northwest and south is coking coal, also non-coking bituminous coal. So all provinces we have a lot of coal resources. At the moment, production is roughly 40 million tons. And then we export 30 million tons, 10 million tons is for local consumption. We have registered 177 companies. They hold 300 licenses for coal mining, but active operation now 44 companies are actively working. The coal reserves are distributed to all provinces, more or less equally, but in the peak you can see these are the provinces which are along the main infrastructure, along the main railway, paved road, which connect Russia and China through Mongolia. So the reserve is also associated with infrastructure because we are paying more attention on geological exploration in those areas. Coal is basis for electricity. Over 90%, 93% is generated from coal, 7% generated from renewables. And you can see here the power plants of Mongolia, basically in central area, and there is only renewables in the west, and there are huge possibilities to invest power generation. Unfortunately, we have now a problem with financing coal power plant, but Mongolian national policy pays attention to make investment for coal power plant. Main pillar for our economy is coal. Here you can see in last year the total export income of Mongolia was 12 million tons, 12 billion US dollars, 12 billion US dollars. And about half of that export income from coal. So coal is really important source of income for this country. At the moment, by February, end of February this year, last month, 44 mines are under operation, 25 million cubic meter of soil overburden removed, and about 5 million tons of coal mined, and 5.5 sold. That means there are some extra stockpiles. 4 million tons of coal were exported to China by end of February. The coal mines in Mongolia are all open pit, open cast coal mine. And because of open pit mining, our cost is lower than Chinese, where we have a lot of underground mines. The reserves are mostly estimated to 300 meters from surface. In recent years, there are deeper drilling and geological exploration. Some studies for underground mining already started, but mostly we have up to 300 meters reserve estimation. Coal mine methane, coal bed methane is of big interest, and there are several companies, mostly Australian stock exchange based companies, making exploration for coal methane, which is a new field in Mongolian coal industry. Strip ratio, which is one of important economic feature in coal mining, it was 3 and now it is 5. In previous slide I showed it is 5 already, so it is going to increase. Basically, the cost of Mongolian coal mining is increasing because of sudden expansion of coal mining capacity in the last 10 years. We have now several big open pit mines, and they are going deeper. Some some are preparing underground mining, and cost is increasing. In terms of technology, this now cause changes in transport, in pit, within the mine, in pit crusher and conveying system with electric motivated electric drivers to reduce the cost of diesel fuel. And also another technological challenges is geotechnics of the big coal mine. We had only a few bigger coal mines 20 years ago which supply to power plant, but now we have several big mines which export coal, and we have lack of geotechnical experience, and in that sense new technological challenges are being addressed. Another thing is, important thing is, now we mine coal seams with a lot of rock layers. The huge tens of meters pure coal seams have been almost mined in last 20 years at the major mines. And now we are going to other layers which have a lot of rock layers. So the coal washing plant is getting more important, and separate selective mining technology, consequently cost of mining is increasing. General export and production of Mongolia has been changed dramatically in over last 15 years. And this just should show how unstable production and export. The main challenge is infrastructure. Last year, fortunately, we had more active cooperation with the border of China and Mongolia since June of last year, and we exported over 30 million tons. But a year before that, we exported only 16, almost 2 times less. The capacity is 2 to 3 times bigger than we produce. I mean, this is ready technical capacity of Mongolian coal mines. In 2021, for example, the planning means if we use mining as I want, then 100 million tons, and the total production was 34 million tons. So basically, there is enough capacity. The capacity will be limited by several factors, of course. 100 million tons of mining capacity, but realistic capacity of infrastructure, transport is 50 million tons. And then maximum export we achieved was 36 million tons. Another limit, the most important limit, is Chinese demand. If China wants more coal, then we can supply. Also, Chinese miners, I think especially miners close to Mongolian border, pay attention on how many tons of coal should come from Mongolia, because there are also miners working. And as far as we know, the Chinese import of coking coal changed between 65 to 70 million tons. And if it remains in this way, then maybe we can supply not more than half, but if it will increase, we are ready. Capacity is more than enough. During the COVID, one very important thing we understood is the infrastructure, logistics is the key, not the COVID itself. Because in the beginning of COVID, supply of Australian coking coal to China increased by 50%. And then there was a political issue and stopped. And next year, Russian supply increased by 50%. And in that 2 years, Mongolian supply decreased by 50% consequently. I think these supplies are not interconnected, but it shows the problem of infrastructure, how important. And therefore, Mongolian government built over 700 kilometers railway in recent years. It is very huge success, since Mongolia had the railway in 1955 connecting China and Russia. Since that time, there has not been such big infrastructure development. So this is a very huge development for Mongolia. Tavantolgo Gantsmod was connected, and well, I will not go to details, but 3 main railway lines were built. Now we hope that the Tavantolgo Gantsmod will be connected with China. There's few kilometers, but it needs some technical solution and investment. The government of Mongolia announced so-called new revival policy. And within this policy, they have plans for increasing capacity of border crossing points 3 times more than now. And here in this table, you can see the planned capacity of these border crossing points will be 225 million tons. This includes all kind of goods, all kind of materials, not only coal. And if we use only 20% of that capacity for coal, then we can pass 45 million tons of coal per year. So the supply capacity can be something between 40 to 100 million tons to China, depending on how many tons China wants. Coal washing plant, several coal washing plants projects were developed before COVID, and now there are some other under planning. Irdenes ETT started its big coal washing plant project with state-owned Chinese companies' support. Now, if we list technical capacity, not real capacity, of the existing plants, wet and dry preparation, then total capacity is 66 million tons. And 66 million tons for new projects, and 52 million tons for existing plants. So totally, maybe in 5 years, we will have over 100 million tons of capacity of coal washing, dry and wet preparation, which roughly equals to technical capacity of coal mining. So the quality is going to be more or less constant. The lessons we learned from COVID, the biggest signal for changing something was sudden growth of transport cost between Mongolia and Chinese border. It was in short period, and during that period, honestly speaking, the coal amount of coal transported was not so big, but the fact of sudden increase urged to do something for Mongolian government and industry, coal industry. Here you can see very rough comparison. We have, in the example of ETT, for over 200 kilometers transport, 1 ton coal cost was about $12, and then less than 30 kilometers between government was $50 per ton, and during the COVID 2001, it increased over $300 ton. 1 ton coal cost was $300. according to the statements. It was over 2,000 RMB. And this caused a lot of problems because the tax authority of Mongolia calculated amount from which they should take tax, royalty, mineral royalty, based on Chinese market price at the border, which includes this transport cost. And then Mongolian miners suffered heavy loss to unjustified high taxes. Naturally, logically, there were claims to government, why are you doing this? And also huge claims from public. And then everyone understood we are losing. Not only Mongolia, but Chinese, many businessmen, coal traders from China also expressed that they could not enter Mongolian market. Mongolian market is kind of isolated and only few players are playing, but others face difficult to enter. So consequently, the government of Mongolia has issued some changes which caused the problem also for some coal buyers, logically. Yeah. In last year, November, Mongolian president visited China, and two presidents had a meeting, and they signed several important documents. One of those documents is addressed for coal. Increase Mongolian coal for long term. It was agreed in high political level, but it cannot be realized because of logistic problem. So what were agreed with the president's level cannot be implemented in real life. And that's why also Mongolia invested so much efforts and money for railway and infrastructure. And to achieve this goal, also because of COVID lessons, they announced that coal trade and coal will be transported to the border to solve this transport issue, and coal will be sold on exchange, on the Mongolian exchange. And this practice is now, this decision is now being practiced, tested several times. They announced a new platform, and at the moment there are 92 registered traders from China. I think by last week, in total 400 tons of coking coal were sold through exchange. For many businessmen, it causes problem because you have already established like relationships with the transport company, with buyers, with suppliers, and then sudden change causes a problem, of course. And therefore, as Ministry of Mining of Mongolia stated, we should respect what we have already signed. There are some big offtake agreements signed with Chinese companies, so they are going to follow the agreements, and mostly newcomers will go to stock exchange for coal trade, and step by step it should be introduced. So this is like a government decision. We also communicate with transport companies, and we hear their problems because of sudden changes. They also have a lot of problems. That's why also the Coal Association not only focus on coal mining, but from half of this year we want to listen our partners from supporting industries also. Okay, and the last thing, the coal mining companies in Mongolia spent a lot of effort to plant trees This is because our president announced national program of $1.3 billion, and coal companies here, the major coal mining companies of Mongolia, which you know, in total they promised to plant about 300 million trees, and this is like coal sector is being blamed to be dark brown, black, whatever, globally, but we are trying to make it greener. In this photo, the United Nations Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, is planting tree with Mongolian President Mr. Hurulsuk. So they are spending a lot of effort on this. So conclusion, yes, we have mining capacity more than 2-3 times more than now we produce. This is already ready capacity, not capacity in the future. But it will depend on the appetite of Chinese market. All coal is open pit mines, but now we are getting deeper. Cost is increasing, and underground mines are being planned. Some technological challenges of electric transport within the mine and the geotechnical control of the slope. Capacity of borders, capacity of infrastructure is being increased. And for sure, it will be better several times in very close future. And the high-level agreement between the states of Mongolia and China could not be practiced in real life because of transport problem and custom clearance. And therefore, the Mongolian government took decision to adjust the transport coal logistic concept. And the quality of Mongolian coal will be more or less stable because of coal washing plants, and some washing plants are already operating, some is under planning. The capacity of washing and dry preparation together will be roughly equal to capacity of coal mine in Mongolia. And the Mongolian coal sector is trying to be greener. Thank you. Please contact this email if you have any questions.